Hello and welcome to Lucid Mind. This is Majid and today I'll be solving IGCSE Chemistry Multiple Choice Paper 11 from October-November 2020. You can go to any particular question by following timestamps given in the video description. Let's start.
Question number 1. The movement of a substance varies slowly from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Which process is being described? Now, movement from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration is called diffusion. A liquid being frozen. Now, this is state change. It is not diffusion. B. Solid melting. Again, this is also a state change from solid to liquid. It is not diffusion. So A and B are incorrect. C. The substance diffusing through a liquid. Now this is an example of diffusion. For example, ink when put in liquid water, it starts to diffuse. In D, a substance diffusing through air. This is also an example of diffusion. For example, perfume spreading in air. Now we know that in liquid, the molecules have less movement as compared to the air, because in air, the molecules have very random motion and very fast movement. So in liquid, diffusion will be slow as compared to the diffusion in gases, which will be very fast. So correct option is therefore C. Question number 2. What happens to the average speed of gas particles when pressure and temperature are increased? Now we know that when pressure is increased on gases, what happens that the molecules become close together and volume of gas decreases. While temperature has relation with the kinetic energy of the molecules. So when temperature is increased, the kinetic energy also increases. So when kinetic energy increases, the pressure also increases. So when pressure increases, the average speed of particles remain unchanged because it does not increase or decrease the kinetic energy. But when temperature increases, the speed of particles will be faster. The answer is therefore D. Question number 3. Which piece of apparatus can only measure a single fixed volume? A is beaker. Now in beaker we can measure different volumes like 100 centimeter cube, 50 centimeter cube. In burette we can measure from 0 to 50 centimeter cube of volume. C is 100 centimeter cube measuring cylinder, so we can also measure from 1 to 100 centimeter cube. D is 25 centimeter cube pipette. Now pipette is the only apparatus that has fixed value. So fixed volume can be measured. The answer is D. Question 4. In the chromatography experiment shown, which label represents the solvent front? Now solvent front is the distance traveled by solvent from baseline. As D is the baseline, so the distance traveled by solvent front would be this much. The answer is A. Question 5. Which substances can be separated by filtration? Now filtration is used to separate insoluble substance from solvent or solution. A. Insoluble liquid and water, as both are liquid, so therefore separation cannot occur by filtration. B is insoluble solid and water, as insoluble solid is left behind on the filter paper, so this can be separated by filtration. C is solution of soluble liquid in water, as both are liquid, so therefore filtration cannot occur. D. Solution of soluble solid in water, as solid is soluble, so therefore it won't be filtered out. Correct answer is B. Question 6. An atom of element R contains 15 protons, 16 neutrons and 15 electrons. What is R? From periodic table we know that the element having 15 protons is phosphorus and the atomic number is 15. The nucleon number is 16 plus 15, which becomes 31. As there are 15 protons, so in neutral atom protons is equal to the number of electrons, so 15 electrons will also be present. The answer is therefore B. Question number 7. Which row describes the properties of potassium iodide Ki? First is the type of bonding. As in potassium iodide, potassium is from group 1 of the periodic table, which is metals, and iodine is from group 7 of the periodic table, which is non-metal. Now the bonds between group 1 and group 7 is ionic bond. So it could be C or D. In ionic bonding, positive ions are surrounded by negative ions, and similarly negative ions are again surrounded by positive ions. The force of attraction is therefore very high, so the boiling point will also be high. In ionic compounds in solid state, what happens is that the ions are fixed. They cannot move freely, so therefore ionic compounds are bad conductors in solid form. So solid will not conduct electricity. While in aqueous solution, for example, potassium iodide will become separate ions like potassium ion and iodide ion. So then it will become good conductor of electricity. The answer is D. Question 8. Which diagram represents a mixture of compounds? In A, we can see that single atoms are present, so therefore this is element in the form of atoms. It is not a compound or neither a mixture of compounds. So A is incorrect. In B, we have a mixture but same atoms are present, so these are the molecules having same atoms. So B is also incorrect. In C, we can see that there are two different types of compounds. One is this one and one is this one. And these are compounds because they are made up of different atoms. One is black color and second is white color atoms. In D, we can see that only one type of compound is present, so therefore D is incorrect. So the only one having mixture of compounds is C. Question 9. Rubidium is in group 1 of the periodic table and bromine is in group 7. Rubidium reacts with bromine to form an ionic compound. Which row shows the electron change taking place for rubidium and correct formula of rubidium ion? As rubidium is present in group 1 of the periodic table, so group 1 is metals and metals lose electron to form ionic compound. As it is in group 1, so it will lose 1 electron, so rubidium atom will convert into rubidium plus 1 along with the loss of 1 electron. So the charge on rubidium will be plus 1 and 1 electron is lost. So it could be C or D. and it is C. So answer is C. Question number 10. Which statement explains why graphite is used as a lubricant? A. All bonds between the atoms are weak. As in graphite, each carbon atom makes 3 single covalent bonds with other carbon atoms. So the bonds are strong, they are not weak. B. It conducts electricity. Now, graphite does have free electrons, therefore it is a good conductor, but this is not the reason for it to be used as a lubricant. C. It has low melting point. Now, graphite does not have low melting point, its melting point is quite high. Layers in the structure can slide over each other. Now, this is a true statement because in graphite, carbon atoms are present in the form of layers and only weak forces of attraction are present between the layers. Therefore, layers slide over each other, and due to this sliding, it can be used as a lubricant. The answer is therefore D. Question 11. The equation for burning propane in air is shown. This is propane. It reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. Which value of X and Y balance the equation? Now we can see that there are 3 carbon atoms with propane on the reactant side, and these are balanced by writing 3 with CO2. Now carbon atoms are balanced. There are 8 hydrogen atoms on the reactant side and only 2 in the water molecules, so we can multiply 2 with 4 to make it 8. So Y will be equal to 4. Now looking at oxygen atoms on the product side, we have 3 into 2, 6 oxygen in carbon dioxide, and 4 into 1, 4 oxygen with water. So in total we have 10 oxygen atoms on the product side. So in order to balance 10 oxygen atoms, we can write 5 with O2. So 5 will multiply with 2 to make it 10 oxygens. So X is equal to 5. The answer is therefore C. Question number 12. The relative atomic mass of chlorine is 35.5. When calculating relative atomic mass, which particle is the mass of chlorine atom compared to? Now whenever we are taking relative atomic mass, it means that it is compared to an atom of carbon, which is taken as 12. So A, B and D are incorrect. Only correct option is C. Question 13. Concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is electrolyzed using platinum electrodes. What is the major product formed at each electrode? In concentrated aqueous sodium chloride, we have sodium ions, H plus ions, Cl negative ions, and OH negative ions are present. Among the cations, we have sodium ion and H plus ions. Now H plus ions are easily discharged as compared to sodium plus ions. So therefore H plus will move towards cathode and produce hydrogen gas. So at cathode, hydrogen is being produced. Among the anions, we have chloride ion and OH negative ions. And as solution is concentrated, so the amount of chloride ions will be higher. So chloride ions will be discharged first as compared to hydroxide ion, and it will lose electron to form chlorine gas. So chlorine is formed at anode. The answer is A. Question 14. Three substances are listed. One is copper, dilute sulfuric acid, and solid lead bromide. Which substance conducts electricity? Now, copper is a metal, and metal does conduct electricity because of the presence of free electrons. 2 is dilute sulfuric acid. Now, dilute sulfuric acid forms ions in water. So therefore, due to the presence of free ions, it is also a good conductor of electricity. In 3, we have solid lead-2 bromide. In solid lead-2 bromide, no free ions or electrons are present. So 3 is the bad conductor while 1 and 2 are good conductors. The answer is therefore B. Question 15. Sodium nitrate is added to water in a beaker and stirred until it dissolves. At the end of experiment, the beaker feels cold. Which row describes the reaction? Now, when the beaker feels cold, it means the temperature of solution will decrease. And this is because sodium nitrate absorbs energy from its surroundings, so therefore the type of reaction is endothermic. In endothermic reaction, energy is absorbed from the surroundings. The answer is therefore A. Question 16. Which substance does not require oxygen in order to produce energy? A is coal. Now coal is made up of carbon, and carbon requires oxygen in order to produce carbon dioxide and energy. So A is wrong. B, we have hydrogen. Again, hydrogen requires oxygen to combust to produce water along with energy. So B is also incorrect. C is natural gas, which is CH4, methane. It also requires oxygen to form carbon dioxide, water, along with energy. So C is also incorrect. D is uranium, and uranium can produce nuclear energy without the need of oxygen, as this involves only the disintegration of nucleus. So therefore answer is D. Question 17. Which process involves a physical change? A is heating calcium carbonate. When calcium carbonate is heated, in the presence of heat, it converts into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Now this is a chemical change, not a physical one. B is burning wood. In wood, cellulose is present, which reacts with oxygen in air to form carbon dioxide and water. So this is also a chemical change and cannot be reversed. C is melting an ice cube. Now this is a physical change. As this change can also be reversed. D is mixing an acid and a base. For example, we have HCl and it is mixed with NaOH. It forms salt and water by neutralization reaction. This is also a chemical change. So the only physical change is C. Question 18. A sign displayed in a flour mill is shown. There is explosion hazard, no smoking, no open flames. Which statement explains why there is a danger of explosion in a flour mill? A. Flour burns very quickly because it is a fine powder. Now this statement is correct because we have tiny grains of flour that burn instantly with explosion. B is flour is a catalyst for combustion. Now it is not a catalyst, it is itself combusted. So therefore B is incorrect. C. Flour mills get hot and speed up the rate of combustion. The mills does not have anything to do with the explosion. D is the combustion of flour is exothermic in nature. This statement is true, but it does not have anything to do with explosion because all exothermic reactions are not explosive in nature. The correct answer is therefore A. Question 19. The graph shows the results of two experiments investigating the rate of reaction between excess calcium carbonate and dilute hydrochloric acid. In each experiment, the volume of carbon dioxide produced is measured at fixed time intervals. Which statement describes the difference in conditions between experiment 1 and 2? Now we can see in the graph that in both the experiments, same volume of CO2 is produced. So it means same amount of reactant is used. As we have two reactants, one is calcium carbonate which is in excess, so it does not have any effect on the volume produced. Second is dilute hydrochloric acid, so we can assume that dilute hydrochloric acid is same in both experiment 1 and 2. Second thing that we can observe is that experiment 1 is more steep than experiment 2. This shows that experiment 1 is faster as compared to experiment 2, which is slower. Let's look at the options. A. In experiment 2, a higher concentration of dilute hydrochloric acid is used. Now this is incorrect because volume of CO2 is same, so same concentration is used in experiment 1 and 2. B. In experiment 2, a higher temperature is used. Now higher temperature increases the rate of reaction whilst experiment 2 is lower, so this statement is incorrect. C. In experiment 2, the mass of calcium carbonate is greater. This is incorrect because excess of calcium carbonate was taken in both experiments. D. In experiment 2, the particle size of calcium carbonate is greater. When particle size is small, the rate of reaction is faster. When particle size is greater, the reaction rate becomes slower, so this is a correct statement. This is because particle size affects the surface area. When particle size is greater, the surface area will be smaller, so therefore experiment 2 is slower. So answer is D. Question 20. When pink crystals of cobalt-2 chloride are heated, steam is given off and the color of the solid changes to blue. What happens when water is added to the blue solid? This is the reaction. So we have pink color on the reactant side and blue color on the product side. When water is added to the blue solid, the reaction will move backward and pink crystals will be formed again. So the color will change to pink. Now forward reaction is endothermic as pink crystals are heated. So therefore the reverse reaction will be exothermic in nature, and in exothermic temperature increases. The correct option is therefore B. Question 21. In which change is the sulfur in sulfur 1 oxide reduced? We can find the oxidation states of sulfur. When sulfur is an element, the oxidation state is 0. When it is in SO3 and the overall charge is 0. Let's find the oxidation state of sulfur in SO3. We have 3 oxygen atoms. So the charge on 3 oxygen will be -6 equals 0. So sulfur will become +6. So it is 0 for solid sulfur, +6 in SO3. Similarly, in SO2 we have 1 sulfur, 2 oxygen atoms and overall charge is 0. So for 1 oxygen the charge is -2, for 2 it will become -4. sulfur is plus 4 in SO2. Similarly, in SO, we have 1 sulfur, 1 oxygen, and overall charge is 0. So sulfur, for 1 oxygen the charge is -2. Sulfur will become +2. In S2O, they have given the oxidation state in their question, which is +1. So now changing from +1 to +6 is oxidation. Similarly, from +1 to +4 is oxidation. From +1 to +2 is oxidation, while from +1 to 0 will be reduction. The answer is therefore D. Question 22. What is a characteristic of acids? A. Acids turn methyl orange indicator yellow. This is wrong because methyl orange turns red in acid and yellow in alkali. B. Acids have a high pH value. This is incorrect because the pH of acid is below 6, so they have low pH value. C. Acids react with ammonium salt to give ammonia gas. This is wrong because alkalis react with ammonium salts to form ammonia gas. D. Acids react with carbonates to produce salts. This is true. For example, calcium carbonate reacts with HCl to form salt, which is calcium chloride, along with CO2 and H2O. The correct option is therefore D. Question 23. 4 different groups of oxides are shown. Which statement about these oxides is correct? A. 1, 2 and 3 contains basic oxides only. Now basic oxides are actually metal oxides. In A we have magnesium oxide. Magnesium is a metal. Iron is also a metal. Copper is a metal. So all oxides in A are basic. In second we have calcium, which is a metal. Sulfur is a non-metal. Titanium is a metal. So therefore SO2 is acidic oxide. So A is incorrect. B. 2, 3 and 4 contain basic oxides. As we know that in 2 we have sulfur dioxide, which is acidic oxide. So B is also wrong. C. 1 contains basic oxides only and 4 contains acidic oxides only. Now in 1 we know that all are metal oxides and they are basic oxides. Let's look into the 4. We have non-metal nitrogen. Bromine is non-metal. Phosphorus is non-metal. So all oxides are non-metal oxides. So non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. So C is correct. In D, 1 contain acidic oxides. Now this is wrong. And 4 contains basic oxides. The correct option is therefore C. Question 24. A student carries out an experiment to prepare pure magnesium sulfate crystals. The diagram shows the first stage of the preparation. He adds magnesium carbonate until no more reacts. Which processes should he use for the next stage? In the reaction, he uses magnesium carbonate and sulfuric acid. The product formed will be magnesium sulfate plus water plus CO2. As in the reaction he uses magnesium carbonate until no more reacts, it means magnesium carbonate is in excess. So in order to remove the excess of magnesium carbonate which is unreacted, he must do filtration as the next step. The answer is therefore C. Question 25. Which ion produces a green precipitate when aqueous sodium hydroxide is added? Now copper plus 2 forms light blue precipitate with aqueous sodium hydroxide. Iron plus 2 forms green precipitate with aqueous sodium hydroxide. Iron plus 3 forms reddish brown precipitate. And zinc will form white precipitate. The answer is therefore B. Question 26. The positions of 4 elements in periodic table are shown. We have A, B, C and D. Which element is a gas that displaces iodine from sodium iodide? Now A belongs to group 1, which is metal group. So A is a metal. B is hydrogen. C is from halogens, which are gases, and C is chlorine, while D is from noble gases and it is argon. These elements can be found from the periodic table. Now B is hydrogen and hydrogen does not displace iodine from sodium iodide, so B is incorrect. D is argon, so argon does not react because it is inert in nature. The only option left is C, and C is chlorine. So for halogens you should remember that reactivity decreases down the group. As iodine is below in group 7 from chlorine, so therefore chlorine can easily displace iodine from sodium iodide. The reaction will be like this: chlorine plus sodium iodide. It will make sodium chloride along with iodine. The correct answer is therefore C. Question 27. A flammable gas needs to be removed from a tank at an industrial plant. For safety reason, an inert gas is used. Which gas is suitable? Now inert gas means gas that is unreactive or noble gas, and in periodic table inert gases are present in group 8. A is argon. Argon is a noble gas and it is also inert in nature. B is hydrogen. Hydrogen is highly flammable, so it will burn. C is methane. Methane is also a compound which is highly flammable gas. D is oxygen. Now oxygen is also incorrect because it helps in combustion process. The correct option is therefore A. Question 28. A substance X has the following properties. Number 1. It has high melting point. Number 2. It conducts electricity in solid and liquid states. Number 3. It is malleable. Number 4. It has high density. A is a ceramic. Now a ceramic has a high melting point, but it is a bad conductor of electricity. B is copper. Copper is a metal and metals have high melting and boiling point. Good conductors in solid and liquid states. They are also malleable, which means they can be made into sheets, and they also have high density. So B could be correct. C is graphite. Now graphite also has high melting point. It can conduct in solid and liquid form, but it is not malleable. D is sodium chloride. It has high melting and boiling point, but sodium chloride is bad conductor in solid state as the ions are not free to move. The correct answer is therefore B. Question 29. A reactivity series is shown. Which statement is correct? In this reactivity series, we can see that the reactivity decreases down in the series. A. All the metals above carbon are extracted by electrolysis. Now we have magnesium, calcium and sodium above carbon, and yes, they are extracted by electrolysis because they are highly reactive, so therefore they cannot be reduced by carbon. So statement A is correct. B. Iron can only be extracted by electrolysis. Now iron is below carbon, so therefore carbon can also be used to reduce iron oxide into iron. So B is incorrect. C. Calcium can be extracted by heating calcium oxide with carbon. As calcium is above in reactivity series as compared to carbon, so therefore carbon cannot displace oxygen from calcium oxide and the reaction will not occur. So C is incorrect. D. Copper can only be extracted by passing hydrogen over heated copper to oxide. Now we can see that hydrogen is more reactive than copper, so therefore when hydrogen is passed over heated copper oxide, it will form water and copper is formed. But it is not the only process. We can also use carbon for this purpose. The correct answer is therefore A. Question 30. What is the symbol of the metal used in the manufacture of aircraft because of its strength and low density? Among aluminum, copper, iron and zinc, only aluminum is the one having low density and high strength. The answer is therefore A. Question 31. Oxides of nitrogen are given out from car exhausts. Which row best shows why oxides of nitrogen are unwanted in the atmosphere? First option is acidic and second option is toxic. Now we know that in engine what happens that nitrogen can react with oxygen to form oxides. As it is a non-metal oxide, so non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. And this is also toxic because it can dissolve in water to form acid rain. So nitrogen oxides are acidic and also toxic. The answer is D. Question 32. Two reactions M and N both form carbon dioxide. Which types of reaction are M and N? In M we can see that calcium carbonate is converting into carbon dioxide, and we know that in order to convert a carbonate into carbon dioxide we need heat. So this is thermal decomposition. So it could be A or B. The reaction will be like this. Calcium carbonate in the presence of heat, it converts into oxide along with carbon dioxide. Second is CH4. CH4 is methane. So methane can be combusted in the presence of oxygen to form CO2 and H2O. So it is combustion for CH4. The answer is therefore B. Question 33. Which row describes two uses of sulfur dioxide? Now sulfur dioxide is acidic in nature as it is an oxide of nonmetal. Let's look into the options. A. Bleaching paper pulp, as sulfur dioxide is oxidizing agent, so it could be used to bleach paper pulp. C and D are extracting iron from hematite. Now carbon monoxide is used for extracting iron from hematite, so C and D are incorrect. Second use is neutralizing acidic industrial waste, as sulfur dioxide is itself acidic, so therefore it cannot neutralize acids. Second is preserving food and drink. This is true because sulfur dioxide is acidic in nature and it stops bacteria and molds from growing. The answer is therefore B. Question 34. Which statement about lime and limestone is correct? Lime is calcium oxide and limestone is calcium carbonate. A. Calcium oxide is formed from limestone in a displacement reaction. Now limestone can decompose to form calcium oxide. This is not a displacement reaction, it is decomposition reaction. So A is incorrect. B. Lime is used to treat alkaline soils. This is incorrect because lime is alkaline in nature as it forms calcium hydroxide with water and it is used to treat acidic soils. C. Limestone is a waste material in the manufacture of iron. Now this is incorrect because calcium silicate is the waste material in the manufacture of iron. Limestone is used to make calcium oxide, which in turn forms slag. D. Slaked lime is used in the process of flue gas desulfurization. Now this is true because slaked lime is calcium hydroxide and it can react with sulfur dioxide in flue gas to form calcium sulfide along with H2O. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 35. Which compound has a chemical name ending in ol? Now ol is the ending name for alcohols. A is C2H5OH, it is ethanol. And as OH is present, so this is an alcohol. B is C2H6, which is ethane. And it is an alkane. C is CH3COOH, which is ethanoic acid, and it is a carboxylic acid. D is C2H4, which is ethene, and it is an alkene. So the only alcohol is A, ethanol. Question 36. Petroleum is separated into fractions by fractional distillation. Separation occurs in fractionating column. Some properties of 3 of these fractions are shown. Which statement is correct? A. Fraction 1 has higher boiling point range than fraction 2. As we can see that in fraction 1 the number of carbon atoms in chain is less as compared to fraction 2, which is 16 to 24, so therefore the boiling point will be lower. So A is incorrect. B. Fraction 2 is removed from a higher point in the fractionating column than fraction 1. In fractionating column, as the gases move towards the top, the boiling point decreases, so does the temperature. It means that fraction 1 will be removed from top position as compared to fraction 2. So B is incorrect. C. Molecules in fraction 3 have shorter chains than those in fraction 2. As we can see that the boiling point of fraction 3 is less than fraction 2, so it means that molecules in fraction 3 would have shorter chains than in fraction 2. So this statement is correct. Shorter chains produce low boiling point as compared to longer chains. D. None of the fractions are liquid at room temperature. As we know that from carbon 1 to 4 we have gases. and above 4 we have liquids, so fraction 1 is a liquid. So D is incorrect. The correct answer is therefore C. Question 37. Which statement about alkenes is correct? A. Alkenes are saturated hydrocarbons. Now alkenes have double bond between carbon atoms, so therefore they are unsaturated, not saturated. B. Alkenes can be made by cracking other hydrocarbon compounds. This is true, as long chain hydrocarbons, for example C10H22, can be used to make small chain alkenes. C. Alkenes change bromine water from colorless to brown. Now when bromine water is added to alkene, the bromine water changes from brown to colorless. So this is incorrect. And C2H4Br2 is formed. D. Alkene molecules contain double bonds between carbon atoms and hydrogen atoms. Now this is incorrect because the double bonds are present only between carbon atoms, and single bond is present between carbon and hydrogen atoms. The correct option is therefore B. Question 38. The flow chart shows the preparation of ethanol and some important chemistry of ethanol. What are X, Y, and Z? The first process is fermentation. Now we know that glucose can be fermented in the presence of yeast to form ethanol. And ethanol can also be used as a fuel. So in fuel, what happens that combustion of ethanol takes place and it forms carbon dioxide along with water vapors. So substance X is glucose, process Y is combustion, and substance Z formed is water in the form of steam. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 39. Which statement about aqueous ethanoic acid are correct? The formula of ethanoic acid is CH3COOH. Number 1. It is an alkane. Now this is false because ethanoic acid is not an alkane, it is carboxylic acid. 2. It reacts with sodium carbonate to form carbon dioxide. This is true because acid reacts with carbonate to form salt, carbon dioxide, and water. For example, ethanoic acid will react like this, plus sodium carbonate. It will form sodium salt of carboxylic acid along with CO2 and H2O. So 2 is correct. 3. It changes the color of litmus solution from blue to red. This is true because acid turns litmus solution from blue to red. 4. It is a hydrocarbon. Now hydrocarbons are compounds that consist of carbon and hydrogen only. While in ethanoic acid we also have oxygen, so therefore 4 is incorrect. As 2 and 3 are correct, so therefore answer is C. Question 40. Which substance is a polymer? A is diamond. Now this is incorrect because diamond is a giant covalent compound. It is not polymer. Graphite. Again, graphite is giant covalent. It is not polymer. C is nylon. Now nylon is a polymer. And this polymer consists of peptide linkage. D is sodium chloride. Now sodium chloride is ionic compound and it makes giant ionic structure. The correct answer is therefore C.
Thanks for watching. A like, comment and subscribe will be highly appreciated. You can find related videos in playlists. Stay happy and enjoy learning.